in the next 10 years, I don't see a reason why we can't win the World Cup in the next 10 years, the way Japanese rugby is progressing.
It's great to hear that, isn't it? That actually Michael Leitch says Japan should be winning the World Cup.
Today, we're delighted to be joined by a man who was involved in the biggest upset in World Cup history and also captained Japan to the quarterfinals of their home World Cup. Joining us all the way from Tokyo, it's Japan's Michael Leitch. How are you, mate?
Okay, good, thanks. Good.
Michael, great to have you, mate, as we embark on another World Cup. We're all really excited. How are you? How is things in Japan? How's the lay of the land over there?
That's good. We've been training in the heat. It's been 32 degrees pretty much every day, so that's been a tough couple of weeks over here.
I bet it has. 32 degrees sounds lovely. Scotland, it's not stopped raining. But like in terms of team preparation, like going into the World Cup, I know form has been a little bit up and down, but you've got a bit of history in Rugby World Cups now.
Yeah, I mean, the form of the team is coming together. I mean, we haven't got the results that we wanted, but we're playing good quality opposition, and they're testing us, testing our structures, testing our discipline, obviously. So I think we're going to be very well prepared going into the World Cup.
Yeah, and obviously looking at where you are as a group of players, you know, there was all the sort of furore around the 2019 World Cup in your home country. You were the skipper. It was the most unbelievable build-up. This one's very different, isn't it? Because you know it's in France. You know, perhaps people aren't having as many eyes on Japan, but ultimately, when you look at the group and the history of what Japan have done, beats the Springboks in Brighton in 2015, got to the quarterfinals in 2019, your home World Cup, and you're in a group where, as an Englishman, I'm bloody nervous. I ain't gonna lie. You know, people would say, England should come through that group, but Argentina, then Japan, for us two, are the biggest of games. You guys must be relishing that opportunity to knock over another big dog in terms of England and sort of repeating what you did in 2019 to Ireland and Scotland, and then ultimately going after the English, eh?
Yeah, but not looking ahead too quickly. We've got Chile up first, but in terms of that England game, you know, that's it's a massive game, and they're going into the World Cup. You know, we've got it's almost in our DNA that we've got the know-how on how to beat big teams at World Cups. So we're really looking forward to turning up there and creating new history for the team.
Yeah, and you talk about history. I think a lot of people in rugby now, casual fans, when you ask them who their second team is, a lot will say Japan because of the iconic moments, the win against South Africa in 2015, and the way as a country that you dealt with the World Cup and all the challenges that happened in the lead up to the game against Scotland and stuff. Can you just give us an outline of rugby in Japan, like the hysteria around it? Because the World Cup was so iconic in 2019 for so many reasons.
So what started all off in Japan was that win against South Africa in 2015. So before that, Japan hadn't won the test game at the World Cup. And so once we beat South Africa, the whole nation was watching our game against Scotland. So, you talk about millions and millions of people. So that sort of got us on the radar.
And just looking back at we'll come back onto Japan rugby in a bit, but just looking back on your history, you moved over to Japan as a youngster, didn't you? And people look at this Japanese team and there's, as you say, there's players from different cultures and backgrounds. But your backstory, obviously moving over there when you were younger, you just loved the country, fully immersed yourself and led the country to some unbelievable victories. How much does it mean to you to be part of this Japanese setup and seeing that development that you've just spoken about from growing up there as a kid and then going all the way through to leading the country?
It's been an awesome journey. And I've always believed in the potential of the Japanese players. But what people don't realise is that from a young age, Japanese rugby players, they train extremely hard. Like, they train every day, 3 hours on a dirt pitch throughout the whole year. There's so much effort that goes into becoming good rugby players. So the work ethic was always there, but the national team didn't really do well on the international stage. So from a young kid, I always thought that was strange, for a culture that works extremely hard not to have the results at the top. So by fortune, we had Eddie Jones come over and he changed the mindset of the Japanese players. And then, after Eddie Jones, we had Jamie Joseph and Tony Brown, and built on top of what we built in 2015.
You kind of reference there the kind of training that the Japanese players do. I imagine there's a cultural element to that as well. Like, can you just give us an insight into that kind of culture, the mindset, and then I suppose how important it is for coaches? I know Eddie Jones has got history in Japan personally for himself. I think, is he a quarter Japanese?
Yeah.
As well. And then Jamie Joseph coming in, and how important it is for them to embed themselves into that culture.
It's slowly starting to change. I mean, from a young age, you train every day for 3 hours, and now it's changing. So, at universities, it's changing. When I was at uni, it was 3 hours every day on the field, 3 hours in the gym. So now it's starting to slowly change. We've got a lot more professional coaches coming over, and if we look at the professional leagues in Japan, a lot of the top coaches and top SNCs are from abroad. So slowly it's changing, but the mindset of working hard is still there. But I suppose we don't work for 3 hours straight. We break it up and have segments where we work hard. And sort of it's hard to explain, but it's not all old school. But the hard work part of it is still here in Japan.
You mentioned a lot of professional coaches coming over. Now you're seeing a lot of professional players come over as well, more than ever. And it seems like you've got half the All Blacks team from this year heading over that way next year. Do you sense that there's a real genuine power shift in not just Southern Hemisphere rugby, but world rugby, because there's Northern Hemisphere players heading that way as well, and there seems to be a lot of coin floating around in those clubs?
Massive. I reckon in the next 10 years, I think Japan's going to be number one spot. It's probably number two at the moment in terms of progressing a professional career. I mean, you look at we're getting prime number 10s coming over, Moanga coming over, Barrett's, they're coming over. And if we look at across the team, across the club, we've got all the top coaches here.
Michael, there's music to my ears there. I've lost 17 kilos over the last 6 weeks. Anyone looking for an old fly-off? Because you mentioned world-class fly-offs. I wasn't world-class, I was shocking, but 43 years of age, I've lost a bit of weight. Any jobs going, basically? You've sold me the dream there.
There's be jobs everywhere for you, I think. Yeah, come over here. But we've got first division, second division, third division, and just recently, Secom, a club like Secom, they had a history of rugby, starting pumping money into their rugby program again, and throwing around some good coin. I've been hearing. So
D3. I'm going for D3 then.
Yeah.
There we go.
Michael, it's really interesting, and this is something that we speak about, and we've got a massive UK audience naturally, and everything that's happened in the Premiership, and something that we talk about, and we always reference the top 14. We always talk about Japan because ultimately sport, entertainment, money, all three go hand in hand. You're there in the centre of it, and I think you've just kind of referenced it there about being a powerhouse going forward. Is there a genuine belief amongst that, and it's not a case of just rich owners throwing in money? Are the TV deals coming? You've mentioned the coaches, the S&C. Maybe just give us a little bit more detail for someone like you, which is going to be part of your legacy, right? This is going to be part of it. Not that you're retiring tomorrow, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the mindset's there of becoming a powerhouse in the world. I think it's just coming naturally. So a lot of the club teams over here are backed by massive companies, and so we've had some good cases in the past where, say, Eddie Jones is coming over as a head coach and won championships, and then with Panasonic, we've had Robbie Deans come over and win championships. So a lot of the club teams now are starting to hire top line coaches. Toyota again. Sorry if I can just say that Toyota, their head of rugby is Steve Hansen. So I think just by chance, everything sort of shifts towards becoming a powerhouse. Whether it's I think it's all by chance.
Yeah, but it's also investment, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
money.
But how I see it is, we're getting coached by the best coaches. Best S&Cs in the world. We're getting the best players in the world coming over here. So in the next 10 years, I don't see a reason why we can't win the World Cup.
It's great to hear that, isn't it? That actually Michael Leitch says Japan should be winning the World Cup or have that desire to win the World Cup. We asked Steve Borthwick in a press conference, what's success, and he's like, we're going to take it game by game. So actually to have those goals and stuff, I think is absolutely brilliant. And you see the momentum. And I spoke to Kobe Steelers about 10 years ago about going over there, and then they realised that so they didn't follow through with the contract. But I was desperate to go out there and play at some point. And I think there's a lot of people. Freddie Burns is going back out there for a second stint. Some unbelievable players from this side are all looking at Japan as a major opportunity to go and enjoy an amazing country and culture, and also educate themselves on rugby and help Japan grow even further. So I think it's brilliant. Let's talk about Eddie Jones then, mate, because you mentioned him a couple of times. He's had a massive impact on what we're talking about around Japanese rugby going back to 2015 and everything like that. He's had a big impact on your career as well. Give us some insight into Eddie. How hard is he to work with? Is he fun and games every day, or is it a bit of stick and carrot as well?
Well, it's a bit of everything. I really enjoyed working with Eddie. We had a really young team, inexperienced team in 2012 when he first took over, and he sort of believed in the potential of the Japanese players. So we worked out a mindset, how to win, is get that mindset out of us, that losing mindset. So changing all that. So that was a real awesome process to be with. Awesome experience to work with Eddie. He changed the dynamics of Japanese rugby, changed the mindset. So once we beat South Africa in 2015, everyone saw Japan, how players in Japan saw the national team as a winning team. That changed everything across the board. Like the high school Japanese players, the under 20s, the sevens, it just changed everything. So working with Eddie was an awesome experience. It was tough, but it was good for everyone that was involved.
Good. And what about Steve Borthwick as well? He's at the helm, but he did his apprenticeship.
He loved his lineouts. He loved his lineouts. So, we would have walkthroughs and everything had to be down to the finest detail.
With you being captain and leader amongst that, because one thing you hear, and again, I'm just going based on England, the engagement, and one of his big work-ons is speaking to the media. I imagine he loved it in Japan because he didn't need to deal with that. But when you speak to people about him as a coach and his personability and his understanding of the game, did that transfer in Japanese, I suppose, into that culture?
Oh, yeah, massive. Because Japanese people love detail and love hard work. So that's him. That's him in a nutshell. So he got on really well here. But what people don't realise about Steve is that this Japanese, by the time he finished at Japan, his Japanese was fluent. He was doing forward sessions and full Japanese.
Really?
Yeah.
Mate, that's just so cool to hear.
It's amazing. And does that go across all the other coaches as well? Do a lot of other coaches... Is it something that... I played in France, and the best bit of advice I got given was go and immerse yourself in the French culture. It's very different to England, but go and learn the language, try your hardest. People will laugh at you for getting stuff wrong, but they'll laugh with you and then help you off the back of it. In Japan, obviously, it's a much tougher language to learn than French, I think. That's fair to say. But is that an expectation of all the coaches over there to be able to be, speaking in Japanese to a certain extent? Or?
No, I don't think it's an expectation. I think it's just if you try and speak Japanese, the more, open the Japanese will be to you. They're more accepting. They're probably making more of an effort to talk to you. If you only speak English, then for someone that's not great at English, they probably won't have those small conversations with you. So I guess it's like with any language, if you're prepared to make mistakes and try, at least try, then that's it's good for creating those little small relationships.
We've mentioned it a couple of times, but let's get into it. The miracle in Brighton. Talk to us about that, because they've made movies about it, biggest upset in World Cup history. Walk us through that day and the build up to that event, because no one was fancying you, and I don't suppose you guys gave yourselves as much of a chance as what you ended up having.
No, I think what you said at the end there was wrong. I think, I truly believe we were going to win that game. We had the ability to win that game.
There you go, Nero. You're wrong.
And so,
it's good to hear.
This is how it is. I mean, the guys in our team, and they thought they could win too, and they went out and gave it everything. So when you look at how we started the game, we started off 100 miles an hour, and that to me is evidence that we're out to win the game, not go out there and fall down.
Obviously, I can feel it a little bit in your voice then. There's been some unbelievable things written about that game, and people are calling it the miracle of Brighton. But does it annoy you that people think that you perhaps couldn't have won that game and it was a shock to everyone else? Because when you're in it, you believe, you go into most games, and I play games when you think that actually there's no chance we're winning
I
today.
don't get annoyed. I think that's just normal.
Yeah.
No one expects us to win back then, especially back then. So that's just normal. I mean, it doesn't annoy me. That's just the reality of it. But
Yeah, it is.
as a
It was a
player
shock.
going into it, as a player going into it, we worked so hard in beating the South Africans that it just happened, But we prepared to beat them, and that's the difference. We weren't preparing for Scotland the next week. We were prepared to take on the South Africans and beat them.
Yeah, and to watch it unfold, I'm the same as Andy Rowe. Like, I didn't expect, of course, it's South Africa at that point had won 2 Rugby World Cups, synonymous with Rugby World Cups, and didn't see it coming. Did you realise when the final whistle went the enormity of what just happened?
I thought we'd lost when the final whistle went because I was at the bottom of the ruck. Probably don't see it. My legs were cramping. I thought we'd lost, and when they got up, I saw my tight head prop running over and had tears rolling down his eyes. So at the time, I didn't realise what happened until going back to the hotel in Brighton, and the whole foyer was packed with people. Get free ice creams in Brighton.
And did you have any beers that night? Was it a big night out, or was it just business as usual? Get the sushi in and okay.
For me, it was business as usual. And that first thing he told me after we'd won is we've got to focus on Scotland. Wasn't it?
Don't celebrate. We've got Scotland next week.
Well, Michael, he also knows that the Japanese lads, when they get, and I only know this speaking to Freddie Burns, he's like, they don't get loose, but when they get loose, they get loose. So maybe he knows not to get too loose.
Yeah. Well, that's Japanese rugby for you, like karaoke, beers, and footy. That's rugby in Japan. That's why I love it here.
Sounds
and that's why I think so many people love it here too. It's such an awesome place to travel. It's good to so much things to do over here. No, I love it.
And is that the socialising part of it? So, like, what does it look like? How do you socialise after a game? It has changed. Like, we don't go out here and get they go out and get absolutely monstered until you can't walk anymore responsibly. Like, what is the culture like after a game there?
Right now in the national team, it's pretty.
No, I'd say just in general, the general culture of like the rugby.
It's a lot of it's go maybe 10 years ago. It's everyone's hitting it pretty hard, beers and all, but now everything's getting professional and it's getting very hard to win. So I guess you pick your moments. If there's a bye week next week, you have a team do or something like that. But now it's probably 3 or 4 beers after a game, depending on what your company's like. But yeah, it's not as hectic as 10 years ago.
And then, of course, like after everything that went on at the World Cup in 2015, the expectations would have been through the roof for a home tournament for you guys. How did that feel pressure-wise going into that tournament? Were you guys conscious of the extra expectation?
Yeah, we weren't going to shy away from it. We know the expectation was there. That's always it's with us now, I guess. But no, we had to just embrace it. And we had a great 4 years working up towards that 2019 World Cup. We had the Sunwolves, if you can remember.
Yeah.
We could use that to develop our players, and we're playing against quality opposition. We're playing against All Blacks, Ireland, France. So, we knew that we could go toe-to-toe with a couple of bigger teams.
And then, obviously, going into the group stages, the victories that you had there really set the tone. Scotland went home early. And you get to the quarter-final. The pressure, is it something that Japanese people embrace? Because obviously, culturally-wise, they work hard. They want the detail. But pressure brings out different things. And it was obviously a change in mindset from 2015 to 2019, with everyone looking at you as now a hell of a rugby team. Respectfully, a hell of a rugby team, how they play. Some superstars were coming on the world stage. You get through the group to the quarterfinals. What was the pressure like dealing with that as skipper in your own country when the world is standing up and going, this Japanese team are one hell of an outfit, as opposed to, they might win because we're excited to watch Japan?
The quarterfinal, I think there's more pressure on South Africa than us. We're a challenge. We're challenging them more than them challenging us. So I guess the mindset for us was just to go out and express ourselves and play our rugby, not so much worry about the result too much. But the pressure was there, but we had the whole nation behind us. There was people watching that game. I think it was 1 in 5 people or something like that in Japan watching that game. So we know we had a lot of support behind us, and the pressure was always on them.
Well, that's what I mean. It's again, like with South Africa, the expectation at World Cups is so strong. Obviously went on to win it as well. And I'm sure playing Japan in the quarters was a part of that in the lead-up because they meant business from then. So as a captain, as a leader, I know things might look differently for you personally going into this World Cup, but what are the expectations of Japan? So when you actually look at your pool, everyone's talking about England, Argentina are a team that have got good history in Rugby World Cups. You've got Chile first up. Like, what is the narrative around Japan rugby at the minute, and what is the expectation?
For me personally, I want to win the World Cup, and that's my mindset. And going back to what I said before, like we need players that want to go out there and win the World Cup.
And we've seen some superstars come out of, maybe they weren't household names going into previous World Cups from the Japan team. You look at Matsushima and players like that have come through and, they're now kind of everyone knows who they are. Who are we looking at outside of the big names in Japan for this World Cup? Because there's a frightening amount of talent at your disposal as a team. And there's always been some world stars that have stood up on the biggest of stages. You give us a little snippet into anyone that we should be watching out for?
Himeno, he's always been pretty consistent. He played Islanders. Had an awesome season, so he's sort of filling into his body now too. He's 117 kgs. There's a young guy in my team called Warner Durns. He's 2 meters tall and extremely athletic. He'll be one guy to look out for. And what else we got in there? We've got a young wing called Osada. He goes good. So there's a few guys that are going to be future stars of the game here in Japan.
And what about off the pitch? Because we're building the Kampai 15 for this World Cup. 3 players that you'd like to share a beer with off the pitch and why?
3 players. Can they be in my own team?
They can be whoever you like.
It could be Jim Hamilton if you want.
Me if you want, yeah. Back in the day, a bit of a legend, not so much now.
Probably my team. I'd go with my usual buddies. Horikoshi is a young hooker.
Young, I like that.
Fukui.
He's gone with young hooker.
Fukui,
Why?
The young flanker. Fukui.
You've got to give us reasons why. Give us some insight to what they're like.
Okay, so Horikoshi, he lasts long, so he can.
Yes.
He doesn't go up and go down. He's got a great voice on him. No, he doesn't. He's got an average voice, which sort of brings down everyone's level when you go to karaoke, which is, it doesn't bring it down, but it sort of evens it out and makes you feel comfortable singing. Who else? Fukui. Fukui's, he's good for organising the bar, buying drinks and organising the taxi home, so I'll take him.
Admin.
He's rich. No, he's rich.
Oh, yeah, rich
admin. He's not rich. He's just great at sort of being the young guy in the team. He knows how to operate around the team.
Fixer.
And then Matsushima, I'll bring him along because he doesn't talk unless he's got a couple Asahis down him.
Good
no,
man.
I reckon you've picked Matsushima because it's VIP. You get the front of the queue. They know
Michael
him.
gets the front of the queue. He's the
Yeah,
boss.
I know, but a young, if he's got a family and stuff like that, you don't want to be at the front of the queue. If you're with Matsushima, it's like
You're straight in.
You're straight in the front.
Pass
VIP.
the bouncers, off you go.
Yeah.
All right, Michael. Hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck knocking over England at the World Cup
Whoa.
and keeping them in their pool.
I want to say good luck in every game except for against England. I hope you beat Argentina, Chile, Samoa, and you qualify second in the group. I can't say good luck. I'm English, man. I've got to support England.
Yeah, thank you very much. We're going to be everyone's second favourite team, so hopefully we get support over there in France.
Yeah, you have, mate. Yeah, good luck. Enjoy it. Look forward to watching you, mate.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers to that, Andrew.
Yeah, cheers to that.
Yeah.
Top bloke.
Top bloke.
Imagine that, though. Like, he's probably a massive hero walking around Japan, isn't he? From what he's done for the game and how he's built as a team. They all talk collectively about the whole ethos around hard work in Japan, but he's been front and centre of it all.
He has. And I'll be honest, I didn't want to say it to him. Been a bit let down with Japan. Just like they were building, building. You reckon? Well, the money in the game.
Yeah.
That's the thing. People hate me for money. But the investment that they've got, and like he said, the coaches that are there, the stars. I heard Owen Farrell got offered big wedge.
Yeah.
Go Don't want to. But yeah, Japan, I want them to do well. I really do, because...
Against England?
Yeah, I do.
Who would you rather win? England or Japan in that group game?
Japan.
You're horrible, James. You're half English. Three-quarters English.
I'm a quarter English.
Three-quarters English.
I'm a quarter English, but I'm a quarter of that side of the world.
You're Chinese, mate. You're not Japanese.
I'm a Glory supporter, so
there
I support Germany or Spain.
You said when England are
Italy.
in the Euros or the World Cup, you want England to win.
Yeah, but this isn't the Euros, is it?
It's the World Cup.
This is global. I'm quarter Asian.
You're English. You can't say you're quarter Asian
can.
and support Japan. You're quarter Chinese.
But it's like, but you can. It's like British and Irish Lions. That's my affinity to Asia.
There we go. Anyway.
My Asian brothers.
Michael Leitch, what a bloke.
Yeah, legend.